It's great to have you here. So I have a great show that I want to share some interesting stuff, as always. And so let's get started now. Run for about 2 minutes and then we'll go.
HappyHealer, baby.
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. This is a recording.
Hi. Good day, my fellow Americans. I'm your HappyHealer for this way forward. Cause we need a president who cares and loves. It's your HappyHealer, lover. Your HappyHealer. Good day, my fellow Americans. I'm your HappyHealer for president. Cause we need a president who cares and loves. Because president, cause we need a president who cares and loves. Because don't have a mind on the rules and it is the way forward. It is the way forward. It's your HappyHealer lover. That's what I am. Your HappyHealer. Your HappyHealer lover. Never gives up. Because we're one. HappyHealer loves his son. Alrighty, folks.
Welcome back. So anyways, I have here, and I want to just change the camera position because on the last program I forgot to do that, and I noticed only afterwards, and I said, well, doggone, welcome to the program. And there's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm just so serious about it all, and I like to have a light kind of attitude about it and just be so caring. That's my way. I know love. I just know love. I know love has the answers to the problems that we face. When you see greed hell in its action and it's doing virtually everything wrong, you know that greed hell is the problem. That was the problem. That greed itself. Greed is a force in its own right, and so is love. And so I see the things that are going on, and I just become inundated with absolute confound blissfulness. Like, the ideas we have to do become so clear, and I don't understand why other people aren't experiencing those same things. And I see people, they are so caught up in the left or the right, and they're so caught up in what their role is in that they're not looking at the world clearly. And I love them. And I say, stop for a moment. From the honest broker of truth, we have serious issues, and we need to have a more serious attitude about things, because we are at the brink of our own deaths. We are at the brink of losing the continuity of life. And so we have to ask ourselves, do we want to make the human species geared towards entering a type 1 civilization? That's what the 21st century is meant to be for humanity. I believe that wholeheartedly. And I know that we could do so much better, and we're acting like we're scared all the time. And that also is a cousin of greed hell. And I talk about these cousins and relationships between greed and the effects it has. It's crazy. I have Howard Shore on with me, and he is a supporter, but he's also somebody who is, just like many folks, tied up into things, listening to current events, letting the news stories dictate how they feel and what they feel, and it's horrible. Later on, after maybe some time with Howard here, then we're going to talk, and we're going to just kind of change the gear a little bit. And I want to talk about an incident with a police officer here in Orlando, Florida, where she was charged with murdering, I believe it was in Orlando. We'll check that when we get into it, but she was charged with murdering a black man when she entered his home, and it was, I believe it was Orlando. And so what happened is she was charged with murder because she shot him because she thought she was entering her own home. And so it was a very complicated case, I remember, and that life is complicated. And the reason why I bring it up is because we make so many decisions, and these are life-changing decisions. Some of them we make and we have time to make them, and therefore we can apply a logical standard to them, and we don't. I don't know why people are being so reckless. It's not a logical thing to do. And again, it is a cousin of greed hell. It's what you get out of a greed hell system. It makes sense when you see it that way, but I'm in a lover's mind. I love, and that's what I show, and that I teach that as well. And I'm humble about that. This is not a world where anyone gets to be better than anybody else in love. And you realize that we all matter. We all have purpose and value, and that's where we grow from. Think about that special place. In greed hell, you're always going to have racism. You're always going to have bigotry and hell and greed, and that's the nature of it. It's the force that says, no, me first. I'm better. And we can't continue to count on that and become a type 1 civilization and become clear-headed and loving the way people realize we should be. And that throughout history, we have always been progressing. We have always been learning and doing better. And the times when we haven't been doing that, and I shared this on last night's program, or yet this morning's, and that was when we had our regress. That's when we went backwards. Those were the dark ages, because we failed to see the way forward, and we did not do what we would otherwise better off have done. And that is sort of where we are at now. We are at a crossroads, and we have to make a decision. Is it going to be the continuity of life moving forward, where we get to live a life of happiness, or is it going to be going backwards? And backwards is death in this case, because remember, we went through the Industrial Revolution. We developed a population of over 7 billion people. Going backwards cannot sustain that kind of life. You have to become better. You must progress. That's what nature is saying. Nature all around us is popping up. In fact, you see that, Howard, you can bump in when you feel like, but when you see the nature of technology and that it's becoming all around us, whether we ask for it or not, a force unto itself. And that in China, just like America, we're working hard to get towards what is referred to as, and you should look it up, the technological singularity. And it's so important to realize that that technological singularity is a game changer for humanity. That's a time when that whomever has that is able to do amazing and big and magical things in a new way. And so we have to recognize that that is a scientific fact, that it is a game changer. And the kinds of things that comes with that and abilities, that's where you see AI, for example, really progressing into something we've never seen it before do. Just like they have currently right now, supercomputers, but even they have quantum computers. I don't know if you've heard. and that these quantum computers, like the D-Wave, for example, out of Canada, they are able to compute based on parallel universes. Think about that notion. That parallel universes exist next to our own, parallel, and that they have many of the same things happening all throughout them, and that the mathematics of nature at its fundamental creation says that we have scientifically parallel worlds, and not only that we have them, but that we have machines that tap into them in order to compute equations that help us determine the future course of direction. And then often it's big game-changing things. So Howard, how's it going?
Hi, Keith. Good evening, or a late good evening from Toronto, Canada. And oh boy, the world keeps changing. It seems like every day there's more drama.
I'm telling you, it's past midnight now, huh?
I can't keep up. It's like from one issue to the next. Can we slow down the world a little bit? Let's have some peace in this world. Peace and prosperity and happiness and all these good things.
That's what I'm about, brother. And it gets you worked up. It gets you worked up. I know that. I mean, you tell me about it all the time, and I feel it. I know it. When I've talked to you, and the fact is that you're worked up, man. You want that peace and you want that serenity in your life, but at the same time, you're worked up. How do you get so worked up like that? That's so awesome. I mean, in one sense, it's like you're pushed to the limits.
Right, yeah. Well, it's like there's so many. I got my own personal problems, which we're not going to discuss on the air. But besides those problems, I have to deal with the world's problems and my own city problems. And it's like you hear so much, and your mind goes bonkers.
Yeah. You have a lot. It's a lot like Americans. You have problems at home. We all do. You're not alone, as it turns out. You have problems. We all deal with different things, and that's a fact. You have a wish and a yearning and a desire for things to be better. But yet, you hear about our candidacy, and people should be jumping on it left and right. You know that the core element of this candidacy is your Happy Healer's heart, so steadfast on doing what's right. There is no question to the motives of my candidacy, Landi12020. This is not for negotiation. People matter. But yet, you find yourself looking at other candidates like Biden. You ask me about these guys. What do I think about Biden? And what do I think about, what are some of the other, like Pete, and well, he's out of the race now. Oh, well, Sanders. Personally, I would feel so honored, and I would feel a sense of responsibility like no other. Should so many people put their faith in me to carry a movement? That's a dream. We have so much more than a movement. It's a dream that we know can be true. And when I have that, that's a solemn gift. That's one that I would treat so carefully. I treat it every day so carefully. But I say would because I don't have the kind of support like how Bernie Sanders, for example, has, or that Biden has. And I know that if I did, there's times that Sanders, he drops the ball. I say, why do you let Biden say this or say that? So if you wonder what I'm thinking, that's what I'm thinking. Why does he drop the ball on people that are so dedicated to the dream, and that he's a dream killer when he does that? And he already did this once with Hillary Clinton. He's a dream killer because he doesn't hold that candidate that will ultimately emerge as the Democratic candidate. He does not hold them accountable. And then what happens is they progress to become the candidate, and the Republican holds him accountable. So what good is it? He's a dream killer when he does that. For the people who support him, he is a dream killer. How do you feel about that?
I suppose, but let me ask you something, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say the nominee wanted you to work with them as a vice president. Would you at least consider that working with either one of them as vice president? I mean, to get the foot in the door, and then he can go from there to the next step. If being vice president is not that bad. It's better than nothing, okay?
Right. It's better than nothing. Maybe.
Right.
Depends on how you look at it. But one thing I'll tell you is, just like I said a moment ago, my heart in this is pure. My ambition and motives in this is pure. I'm not looking to have partnerships with entities that are about a whole entirely different system. I reject the system of greed, and I want to bring about the system of love. That's non-negotiable. That's what the people want. So how can I become a vice president to somebody in the system of greed, as if propping that up was going to help anybody from stop dying on the side of the street, you know? And so I'm just really, it's hard for me to do that. And so that's why every time you ask me about that, I say, I can't, well, I'm running.
I know that if you don't get in for some reason, would you consider the vice president position? That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think I would actually. You know, the thing is that I'm not interested in being at the top of, oh, I'm going to be president. I'd make a great president. I know that. And we deserve a great president. That's what I'm focused on. And that, a lot of people, I get pressure. Why don't you support this one or support that one? Or would you be a vice president, like you say? Would you be a vice president to Biden? And then I have other very close friends who they've been supporting Sanders from years ago. And, well, if you just went behind Sanders, that would actually help you gain support. The idea is that people realize that the differences that separate this candidacy from all the other candidacies is the fact that we get it right. Humanity matters. That's the only place we're ever going to find a better place in this experience. We have to have goals, and we have to have unity. They don't give us unity. Greed hell will never give us unity. So we have to get the love. And that in love, we're not even trying to destroy the system. That's what the previous president did. We're here to make things right. It's all about a human change. And it's about putting human beings above money. So important. Because money is taking the value from human beings. And by doing so, you'll actually have the highest stock market. You'll be able to handle things like the coronavirus. People would be so cooperative with one another. We would all be working like a unified force. And right now, we don't have that. And that self-determination is so chaotic. And it's like that because of greed hell. Why would I want to be a vice president in that? No, seriously. Why would I want to be a vice president in that kind of greed hell? It's the problem. That is the problem. I mean, to be there, I wouldn't want to go there just to tear it down. I couldn't anyway. I'd be the vice president. There's no reason to get into a position that's not going to help serve the cause to the people. This is about people. And it's about children, about parents. It's about happiness. It's about our lives. It's about a way forward. And finding a way forward together. It's about seeing that our fate is perhaps at this point so cemented that we can't change it, but then that love is that power that can change it. It can actually reverse that hell. Think about it. That we can reject the idea that we're going to have this soft civil war. We're going to continue to do greed hell and politics hell and every kind of hell you can imagine, all the way until we're right off the cliff. I mean, remember, scientists are saying we have 6-7 years before we have to make huge changes in order to avert crisis on a level, on a proportion that we have never seen before.
You mean climate change, right?
Yeah. And that climate change is a major natural disaster. It's human caused. We can also fix it. I have always contended that in taking care of human beings, the things that has made it possible for us to increase our population in the first place, it was the advent of technology and industry and getting better and getting more efficient. It's time now that we continue to get better and more efficient. And when you become more efficient and you become better at doing things, that's when you're protecting freedoms. Right now, you see that freedoms are under attack, and that it won't be long before there's no freedoms left with the kinds of problems we're having. Think about how China had to react to the coronavirus, and think about how deadly the coronavirus can actually end up being. And think about how people have to be locked, and they actually shuttered the doors. They locked them up, and they even welded them shut. And that's how fascism is. That's how communism is. But in America, in our founding documents, we have written the right for each and every man to have value. It's already there. And that we are to have self-determination, and that we are to have unity, one nation, under God. That was written in our founding documents. And to have gone so far away from that simple principle, really, and realizing that the best version of ourselves is one that emulates God. Love. God is love, and it's a universal truth. It's not a happy healer truth. That is true universally in all religions. And God is the essence of truth. That too is in all religions. That's not a happy healer truth. That's in all religions. So
I think the world's going to hell. I mean, with this fucking corona thing, I mean, it's just like...
That's right.
It's really out of hand.
It's really scary. I mean, a lot of people have to be concerned. Think about it. Not to make, I mean, in one sense, it's a cold. But what do you do when you have a cold? You either get over it, or it gets bad enough and you go to the hospital and you get care. And that's what most Americans have always done. And there's a lot of people who have lost their lives to the simple flu. But in this case, for those people who aren't getting over it, it's like being back, 200 years ago. There's no way to deal with this thing. And you progressively get worse. Elderly people with underlying medical conditions already, they end up finding themselves clinging on to life and fighting so hard. Some of them, they stick around and they make it back. Others, they don't. And that's sad. We see a lot of people that they don't make it, and that's the problem. That in this particular virus, that when it starts to infect the population, and for those vulnerable people that find themselves in that situation, and they're clinging, and they're hoping and praying, we don't have the answers for them. If we were a loving nation, the way we should be, like the way our founding documents were written, and had we followed that, if we were a loving nation, and that we weren't doing all this greed hell, we would have solutions to these problems fast and furious. I mean, it's not even about going back to better times, but using the history, once again, as a yardstick, a measuring device. You see, when unity, people come together. We built the atomic bomb, which actually helped change World War II. We did it in 2 years. 50,000 people in Los Alamos. Think about if we were actually unified and loving and doing things together like we should be doing, like is a sanity beyond logical reason to become a people that's capable of that. That's what everybody in this country wants. That's what people ultimately in their heart they want. They want good people. They're hard to find. We have to build a society of good people. That's how we save our union. It's how we save our self-determination. And it's how we save happiness. It's how we save freedom. These are all important things. And those are all the things we're losing now. And we can talk all day long about how we're losing each one of them. It's so sad.
Yeah, do you think having the right president can really get this everything back to normal? We could probably get where we need to get to?
Having the right president,
the right person in there,
that knows how to respond in a way that's conducive to the problem. That's why I'm uniquely positioned to do this candidacy. You couldn't have Biden do this candidacy. He wouldn't know how. You couldn't have all of the other candidates that were running could do this candidacy. Would you agree?
Really?
They have to do it their way. But their way is the wrong way. And so how do you tell people who know in the deep of their heart that we need change and that we need to become better? People in the deep of their heart know that we need to get beyond racism, that we need to get beyond bigotry. They know it. And they know that this way is never going to bring about a better way. The only thing that keeps them locked in is fear. And fear is a cousin of that greed hell. You got to work on love. Love has its cousins too. Love works on inspiration. Love works on coming together. And it makes a difference because it cares. Love cares. Greed hell cares about one thing and one thing only, profit. And if you get in the way of that, it'll kill you and it won't even care because it just cares about profit. So that's the difference. A president that can explain that to the people, that can every day convey that in a million different ways, backwards and forwards, like on the back of their palm, and that can continue to inspire them and love and show the way, and that can lead by example in that way, and that so all of us can have a sense of familiarity and love, and that a way that would work, and that we'd have calm, that we would inspire calm. Think about that. That's what you want. And that we'd inspire people to become activated in a way that would change this wretched misery. It would no longer be okay to see people dying on the streets anymore, for example. That when we say we care about people, we know what that means. We've defined it very clearly. And that we've talked through the issues because people matter. When they say they feel a certain way, it's important that they're heard. And you say, I love you, and let's come get you up to the spotlight. What are you concerned about? We have to solve real problems. Speak from your honest broker of truth, and let's get there. Because that's the kind of way it takes to solve real problems. Anything less than that, and in this environment, we're going to fail to get to the type 1 civilization that we all know we need to get to.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see. So let me say a few things. So if you were to choose a president for our nominee to work with, on the same team as a vice president, for example, who would you choose? It could be Biden, it could be Sanders. There aren't that many choices left because a lot of them have already dropped out.
I would actually, if I could choose, it wouldn't be any of them, but, out of what we have, I guess, is what you're saying, I'm running. And so, I get a little tied up on that, and you like sometimes pushing that issue. But the fact is, out of the two, I'm not going to say that Biden is anything interesting at all. And I already told you, I feel like that, the people that are backing Bernie Sanders, they have that dream. He doesn't go far enough. We have to do an income for all. We have to change the fundamental foundation of humanity. We have to put value into humanity. People have to realize that and get behind it in a unity that we can solve real problems. He doesn't go far enough with any of that. And he's using old ideas. But people are really behind him. He's considered to be progressive, even though that would not nearly be as progressive as we need to be in order to solve these problems. We need to get very progressive. And that we can, in the power of love. And that anything else that they do, it's not even practical. It's not possible. They're working in greed hell. They have no plan for the most important thing of all that makes it all possible, unity. And so that they forgot about unity, they may as well just forget about everything else too. It's not going to happen. And so I look at that. I look at the way he talks about his opponents, and he doesn't speak the truth when it matters most. These people are putting their guts out for him, and they care. These are such warriors for progression, and that they're behind Bernie Sanders. And when Bernie allows, for example, Biden to not be accounted for the things that the Republicans will not give him that same, then why would Bernie Sanders do that, knowing that the eventual nominee will have such a scar on their back? They're going to attack Biden from everything. If he becomes the eventual nominee, they're going to attack Biden from everything about touching those children and the pictures. You know how it goes. They're going to go on about that. And trust me, they'll be very effective. And they're going to go on about this thing overseas with Biden's son in Ukraine. That's not over either. They're going to go on about all this stuff. And yet they're choosing, or a lot of people are choosing Biden. And they do that out of fear. We never get anywhere special when we do things out of fear. That's why you're ending up with such a horrible result. And that is another dream killer, because that's like a guaranteed Trump win, if you ask me. Because those make him so weak, those things. Not to mention all of the progressives stay home. They don't care anymore. I mean, Trump, in the truth, is a bit more progressive than Biden in his own ways. And it scares people to think that, because they don't like Trump. And they don't like his style. They don't like that he doesn't show value to human beings. And that, but hold on. You have progressives that they're teetering between those two candidates. Trust me on that. And so when you knock out Sanders, you're actually putting 1+ up for Trump. And that's how bad it is when you have Biden. I don't think that Biden is a good candidate at all. And so that's on Biden. But I think that Sanders lets his people down. Oh yeah, he's a good friend of mine. Biden's a good guy and all this stuff. Is that what Trump is going to say about Biden?
No. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
No, I don't think so.
Trump isn't going to say that about Biden. You already know it.
No.
And nor are his supporters, nor is Sean Hannity or any of those talking heads. Everybody are going to be tearing him apart about Ukraine and about the way he touches children. And they're going to be playing those images over and over. They're going to make you sick with them. They're going to be playing over and over and over and over and over again. And guess what? Biden, he has hundreds of them. So, yeah, that's going to be a problem for that campaign. That's common sense. And so why people are putting all their faith in that, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not logical. That's a losing candidate right there. And that dreams are attached to that. And that hope is attached to that. So I think that Sanders owes it to the people that are behind him to be more aggressive, to be more warrior-like for the truth. And that if you want to know between them, that's a handicapped kind of way. But I'm not really for any of them. I think that they're all in greed hell, and that they all have their own version of greed hell, and that no matter which way you go, it's all greed hell in the end. And I'm not interested in greed hell at all. I want to take us to a way that is so much better, that allows us to achieve so much more, that is fundamentally a new way of doing business. And everybody knows it's time. Think about it. We all know it. We know that the world is ending as it is if we do nothing about it. It's reckless. And that you see things popping up. Nature talks to you. The truth is there. Have some illogical sense about it. I'm coming through the cities on Happy Force One talking about this very issue. And it's the truth. Americans get that. And if you want to hear from an honest broker of truth, and for you to hear what Americans locally are saying all over the place, take it from your Happy Healer aboard Happy Force One, because I'm getting that report, and I'll be continuing to get that report, and that people matter, and that people know it, and it's time for that change. And so it's just, people are fed up. They're ready. And That's why you see a lot of the soft civil war going on, the agitation, all we're really missing is somebody that can corral people, help them understand and focus a bit more on what's most important to all of us, what's worthy of change. Because the fact is, people have to be moved to change. They can't, at this point, they can't be moved by simplicity, things that don't matter. They've had enough of it. They're ready for big moments. They're ready to see major change that is for human beings, that is for taking care of human beings, particularly, that is watching over the needs of human beings, their health, that they have stepping back out of the picture and looking back upon the human beings and saying, how do we take care of them? That's a perspective that's important. People get that. Because when you see people, you say, they matter. And what do? They need to be happy. That's not even a concern in our current government, but it needs to be. And not only in our government, but in our society. That people matter. That's what people matter means. Anything less than that, we're falling short. And that's where we're going to end up giving more to the greed hell and allowing ourselves to fall more backwards. And remember, we have coming up shortly, just so you know, in case you're just joining, a program, and it's going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about a police officer that was in Orlando, Florida, that she's now in prison, and she'll be serving a life sentence there, and that she wanted to find God when it was all said and done. Isn't that amazing and awesome and splendid? That she wanted to find God. But also, I want to dissect this story a bit because it could have happened to any one of us. And that how much compassion do we have for people? Are we really exercising freedom when we do identity politics? I don't think so. We're going to be covering those things. And you could stick around for that, Howard, if you like, and comment on that stuff with me. But it's important. We're going to be talking about those things. And I think that this case in particularly with this officer, she wasn't a bad person, so it's a great case to look at in order to ask, is justice being served? Are we serving ourselves the best way? Are people being taken care of in the process? That people matter? How can we avoid these things from happening in the first place? So that's where we're headed to next after we get on to a bit more of this crazy political talk. I just find it so funny how people are so tied into these candidates. Even you're asking me, but what do you think about this? When I'm just by myself doing the show, I don't have to talk about them at all because I see clearly. Remember, I'm focused on what matters. And so they don't matter. You think that crap matters? That's just getting in the way of what matters. You matter. And we matter. And that's why I'm coming out to you. That's why I'm coming to your city and I want to meet you. That's why I need your support in this campaign. And that you go to HappyHealerForPresident.com. You sign up. You get involved. You watch the transformation as it happens. You watch the transformation as it was. You become part of what is this campaign moving forward. We grow. A movement is the only thing that's going to change things. And when we don't see other people doing it, we have to step up and do that for ourselves. And one thing that I have always said, you know what I've always said, Howard? That if we have the change that the American people really need most, it's going to come from the bottom-up movement, because those are the people that know it best. They know it the freshest. And those are the people that, if they should find somebody among the class of the people that get it, that have the perception, that realize, that could fill that role, that in the time of America's most gravest need, steps forward, would most certainly be received by his brethren. That's what I believe. So that's what I did, and I feel confident in that. I feel, even though at times it's tough, I'm invested in a future that is one for all of us. And what I do is for all of us. I know that the effort is worthy of the cause. And the cause is worthy of the effort. that we have at the core of our mission the right and correct essential ingredients, that people and that they matter. That is what's at the core of it. And so that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to segue us into the next part of this now. So what we'll do is get us moving right on to I'm setting us up now. I have to make sure it's the right one. This is about the judge, and that what she did is she allowed the defendant in this case to give a hug to one of the victim's family members. Think about that. Take a look here and watch what we've got next, and then we'll talk about it.
About at that moment was, at the forefront of my mind was shared policy, and that is generally there's no contact with the defendant.
I don't know if it's possible, but can I remember these?
But when he said please the second time, I just could not refuse it. I couldn't. And so I said yes. I think I did it. And that's why I didn't understand the night. What I think was, Brother John has forgiven me. Please forgive yourself. So that you can live a purposeful life when you get out of prison. She asked me if God would forgive her. And I said, yes, I believe He would. He will forgive you. And then she said, well, I don't have a Bible. I don't know where to begin. I don't have a Bible. And I just said, I'll get you. I said something really hurt him deeply. And if I heard this going to help her, I had to experience love and compassion for her.
Life after the coronavirus. That's funny.
Today's coronavirus update. Make sure that you keep distance between you and people around you. If possible, stay home. Read a book. Learn about your HappyHealer's presidential campaign of truth and happiness. But don't take needless risk. Do wash your hands and use sanitizer. And do make sure that you spend time to tell people how much you love them. And pray for a better tomorrow for all of us. And support your HappyHealer in this campaign so that we can make unity in America that gets things done. That's where life is found. I promise you that.
Okay, so welcome back. And yeah, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. No, yeah, I want to talk about this real quickly about this story that I just played, and then we can discuss that most certainly. And so what I'm looking at here, and if you're following along on the screen, it's just you could see the Botham Jean's family plans lawsuit against the apartment complex where Amber, and listen too, I want you to listen to this because I want to talk about it after I'm done reading it, okay? Howard? Good. And that Amber Geiger, where Amber Geiger shot him, so they want to sue that apartment complex, and the idea behind it is that they had this building has several floors on it, right? And there was a known problem that people would get off at the wrong floor. Somehow it was an easy thing to do in this building, and I can imagine. And that when you go into you can try and get into an apartment, for example, the door would be locked, and so often, people would do that. And so there was a lot of people who testified to that getting off the wrong floor in that building was a common thing. So that's brought up in the lawsuit a bit here, and I'll read it to you. But what's important to note about that is just it's a fact in this case that matters. And the other thing in that they're contesting, this is what the family is saying, okay? The family of the victim who got shot by the officer. In that they were saying that she opened the door. When she went to open it, it opened only because of a defect in the way the apartment building had their door locks. So there's more to this case. And when you think about those facts, and then that they are arguing, that when the family is arguing in this case, in their lawsuit against this apartment complex, that because the building had that lack of security in the doorknob, as well as the confusion at each different floor, it was setting up a condition by which something like this could happen. And then they added to that, the police department in this city was aggressive in their tactics. And they added to that, Geiger was only responding the way she was trained to respond. And they added that when she went into the door, she immediately, even when she testified and it was quoted, that she was just going back on her training. And that when her training kicked in, she made demands. Now, of course, we know that she was in the wrong apartment, but she did not know. And, of course, the victim knew. It was just sad all the way around. And so, let me read you, and then we'll all have a chance to just look at this a bit closer and realize on this cast personal stories, and how when we say people matter, that individual people matter, and that those stories matter, and that when you see injustice, we have to do something about it. That's the power of love. And that when we see something that's not fair, that we come together and speak about it in a logical sense. And that we don't let anything bad get in the way of a logical choice designed to bring love and humanity to the forefront. And that's what this campaign has been about since its inception. So let's do that now. And the family in Botham Jean plans to file a separate lawsuit against the apartment complex where former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger fatally shot him, a family attorney said. Now, I explained some of this to you, so we'll skip over that. During Geiger's trial, an investigator testified that Jean's door was defective. It wouldn't shut all the way. Mara said, if it had shut all the way, Amber Geiger wouldn't have been able to get in. The base plates and lock plates didn't line up on some of the doors Jean's included. So, and the mayor said, now the lock would snag and not connect in response to certain types of weather. Geiger testified that the door just sprang open as soon as, so she felt like it was her place. Jean lived on the 4th floor while Geiger lived directly below her. Jean said that she thought she was trying to get into her own apartment at the time. Upon entering, she believed she was confronting a burglar. That's what she testified to. Both she and one of her attorneys said at trial. Prosecutors said Jean was sitting on his couch in a t-shirt and shorts, just minding his own business, watching football and eating ice cream. Sounds like his HappyHealer lover. We're all just children at the end of the day. We're all doing the same things. We're all trying to enjoy life. And that's when Geiger arrived. Oh, talk about a bad. I mean, I'm having a good time, man. That's when I gotta go. Yeah, I guess so in greed hell. Alright. During the trial, something like 70% of the people on the 3rd and 4th floors said that they've gone to the wrong floors before, Merritt said. Merritt also is appealing for the federal court decision that removed the city of Dallas from a civil lawsuit filed by the family. Now remember, Merritt, when we're referring to Merritt, is the Yeah, no, I'm here. I don't want to say this wrong. When we're referring to Mary, she's the lawyer for the family, I believe. Yes, attorney Lee Merritt. And so you got to know this. She's the lawyer for the family. So every time she's speaking on behalf of the family. This is the position of the family. This is the position of the family that actually, I feel bad for them. This guy didn't deserve to die, but that they're focused on what they feel is what was the cause. I mean, really, how could you ignore that? Yeah, I know that the country and a lot of people, they just want to jump to conclusion, black, white, let's all hate each other so fast, let's make an example out of every little thing, let's not take individual stories for consideration, instead let's just make an example of everything. And it's reckless. And that the family is focused in on what they were looking at, saying, how could we let this go? And I agree. And so there's several factors at play here. You have the police department with their aggressive training tactics. You have Geiger, who just snapped right into, that's another thing that the family and the attorney also argued, that Geiger was just going into her normal police training and that she didn't want, let me read it how they put it here. Gene's family argued that his death was a result of a pattern of excessive force by the Dallas police and that better training could have prevented his death. U.S. District Judge Barbara Lynn disagreed, saying that the suit failed to prove the city's liability. Geiger's off-duty. This is the thing that became the status in the question. Geiger's off-duty at the time status of being off-duty, that is, at the time of the shooting, also factored into the suit's dismissal. So you got to remember that. But Merritt, the attorney for the family, argued and disputed that, saying that whenever an officer confronts a situation that is considered a police duty, they immediately become on duty. And that in the mind of Geiger, at the time she said she immediately fell back on her training, and that all officers are trained to respond to situations, whether in public or elsewhere. If there's, for example, an active shooter situation, to snap into action. So it's a logical case, I think. And when you put that together with police training and their tactics and how they're treating people, again, in greed hell, people don't matter. And so people get treated awfully oftentimes, and it's just another symptom of greed hell, don't you know? You wonder, when are these things ever going to go away? Some people are pounding their feet. Don't you know the people before you were pounding their feet too? This has been a problem. It's time to progress. That's what nature is saying. And it's also saying, should we fail, it's time to regress in the worst ways. That's what nature is saying. Because you can't sustain a population of 7 billion in this kind of hell. All right, so, and there's a lot of death that's on the horizon if we don't snap into action. And that's, I guess there's a lot of nefarious people, too, that would like to see that. So, I say, be careful and get on the side of logic, and that we're against evil forces, even though we have such loving hearts. but that we do things so smart that we learn how to make the nice guy, instead of finishing last all the time, finish first. And that's so important because we give things thought and we think through every aspect from the nucleus to the problem-solving end. And that's why we succeed. So it's important to do that because why? Again, people matter. And when a police officer observes a crime, when she responds to it, she goes back on duty, he said. They are considered to be back on duty. Geiger's own statements reinforced that idea. She came to the door. She heard rumbling inside and believed she was being burglarized, Merritt said. She started offering verbal commands. Clearly now she's operating as a police officer. In fact, she used the words, "My training kicked in." And so, she was found guilty, and she is serving a life sentence. And you've seen in that video where she is offered a Bible and asking, will she be forgiven? And she feels guilty. And that the system made sure that punishment and that guilt was adjudicated. And that in our society, in the mind of the human being, it's the American, it's almost instantaneous. As soon as you're found guilty in the court of law, then it's a fact, you're guilty. But that's not always true. And that justice doesn't always find its way. But that's only in the way that how greed hell does things, because it's always trying to make an example for the rest of us. Because it's always about scaring, and it's about revenge, and it's about all the wrong things. But when we focus on doing the right things, we realize exactly what those right things are to do. Let me ask you, Howard, what do you think was the right thing out of this? Should she have had a life sentence?
Oh, God. Oh, Lord. Maybe not.
How about before this segment, if you had read that story, what would you think?
Maybe before.
Yeah.
But I guess once you know all the facts, you know.
Right.
Sometimes you'll change your mind. I mean, you know, based on the facts and what you know, and with his statements.
That's right.
You know, I'm not.
No, I admire that. You know, and I could just picture how many people are triggered. And that's a sign in our society how off things are. Think about it. Please, I say from the honest broker of truth, just stop for a moment. I'm your friend. I love you. And that I'm on this whole entire mission for you. So just think about it. We matter. People matter. And that everyone has to matter. Each individual has to matter. And that's the thing. Greed hell takes away from the individual. It pretends like, oh, everything's for ours. Take greedy, greedy, greedy. And that nobody wants to be a part of an answer that solves the real problem. But actually, when you get to solving the real problem, what you get back to are the core freedoms and justices that we've been so longing for and need for our sanity and for happy lives, for the world to make sense. We need a calming sense. We need it. It's not even an option at this point. We have to know why we're doing the things that we're doing, because otherwise we're running out of time. We don't have the luxury of being reckless. Would you agree, Howard?
Yes, time's running out.
So why is it that in a world where we don't have the luxury to be reckless, that we're doing things in such ways that won't give us the results we want? It seems like people are more in tune with their anger and that they want revenge mostly than they are with an income for all, than they are with education that starts young and never ends and that is invested in people to actually become better. Not just to learn, but it is of higher learning institutions, but to instill value in people about social communication and people matter, and that this is so important. And why aren't people focused on those things over the stuff that moves them and that they're backing the candidates that aren't going to give us the change we need. You have candidates saying we have 7 to 8 years before catastrophic failure happens, whereas I would tend to agree. However, I would challenge anything about their policies provides an answer to solve a problem like that's occurring in 7 to 8 years. What do they put forward? What is large enough to overcome the greed? The greed is the biggest problem. We want to experience huge, monumental progress in the areas of racism, in the areas of bigotry. Remember, all these human social things, people aren't letting it go. It's important. And people matter. That's what it goes back to. And we have to solve even the biggest issues of the continuity of life itself. We talk about where we're going technologically to answer many of these questions, like the coronavirus. If we had love and unity, it would solve and serve these problems quick and fast. The people would know and have confidence in that power, that power is working for them. Right now, we don't have such a unified American spirit working back for the people. Right now, it's a hateful, empty, thing, and that's what we have to change. And that's what the American people are expecting. And so I wonder, they understand and recognize this, right? Are you with me, Howard? They understand and recognize this. They recognize that there's a problem. They say they have 7 years to solve it. But then you tell me, what is Biden's plan to solve that problem in 7 years?
I have no idea.
I mean, I know Sanders got a big heart, but how can anything he's discussing, he doesn't even go far enough. Think about it. He's considered the progressive. He doesn't do an income for all. He doesn't talk about an education starting young and never ending. I mean, we're talking about serious things and that people have to be taken care of, and about how that would bring in a new super consumer. And out of all of that, you get a stronger ability to solve these major problems. What are they talking about? We're talking about a unity that brings people together, that makes all of this possible. They're talking about hell and how much they hate each other. No, I can't get into that, and I can't be a part of that. I can't be a vice president to that. We're on a mission. We're dedicated to who we are. We're lovers. I'm your HappyHealer lover. And so I'm focused on that stuff, my friend. That's the fact. What you got for me? Talk to me. Coronavirus.
Oh my coronavirus. What a horrible thing. I mean, first was coronavirus, now there's the coronavirus. I don't know where they got the name from. It's so bizarre.
It's the COVID. It's just a coronavirus. There's more than one. It's actually a string of viruses that they're classified as coronavirus. And so because they didn't have a name for it, it just became the coronavirus, and that's sort of how people referred to it as.
I believe this is a manufactured type of virus that was made in a lab in China. Because, at first there was SARS about 25 years ago. Now there's another one from China. Why are they always coming from China? Ever wonder about
One
that?
thing is that panic doesn't help. Calm helps. And it doesn't... People's idea of not panicking is ignoring. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying don't panic, but focus on the solution. Yep, that's what they do. They say don't panic, go do your this and that. They say ignore it. If love was solving this crisis, it would be a lot easier, because we would realize, hey, it's 14 days, it's 30 days. That's fine, we'll live that. We'll be home, we'll be creative, we'll make the best of it. We have our internet. We're not dying. There's nothing killing the streets. We'll have people in hazmat suits if required, delivering food to the various homes all over. People will be fed. We'll stop all payments on rent, things like that will be frozen. People will feel in a comfortable situation as we hunker down and beat the coronavirus in 2 weeks. That's how love would do it.
Don't you agree that I think this is a manufacturing of a virus. I don't think this is just an accident, okay?
And we're getting more and more people on this planet. That's why we have to think about it. They say that human beings, they get their value from being truck drivers and garbage truck drivers and collectors and road workers and, and delivery drivers and food workers. I say that people get their value from a larger value and from giving meaning and purpose back to life. And that out of nature has come all of these new gifts in technology, and that they're being used for greed, hell, and profit, but that they should be used. They could be made they'll make more profit than ever in a system of love, but that system of love should serve the people's happiness and their needs, and that it should serve to the people, because the fact is we don't need society to run the way it is now, and it's going backwards. They're spending hundreds of billions of dollars creating human robot jobs in factories just to say, I created 100 million jobs. I say, I want to get you out of your work. It went from the 50s, just one parent working, to now two people working, and they're working two jobs. It's supposed to be that you can have time with your family, that there's robotic answers and new technologies, and that to get to a type 1 civilization, to make progress in our time, it takes to have to do that. And to solve the major crises at our front doorsteps, for the continuity of life itself, it takes to have to do that. And that's what I recognize. And that's logical. And that's why I say, how can you even get behind any of these candidates? Trump, who's all about numbers and forgets about people. Or how can you be behind Biden, who's about going back to the Biden and Obama years? Who wants that? We're about progression. Huh? You can't go back to Obama-Biden years. This is life. Life is going forward. And we have 6 to 7 years to save our life, for example. We have to progress. By some people's accounts, that's what they say. And I agree. I say we have so many more than that. Not just global warming. Don't be blind on the many other things. And you see, coronavirus just came out of the middle of nowhere. Now, what I say is that if we had more automation, it would be easier to spend time in our homes, tell people that they'll have their sustenance delivered to their doors, that they can trust in that, and that we have the systems and infrastructure to serve to that need, and that people are living to the cause of happiness. And that's when people become their best. That's when they give the most back to society. That's how we all grow. And that we're failing that in every sense of the word. People want to solve racism, so instead they do revenge racism. No, we just need to realize we're all on the same team, that we're all lovers, and that we all love, and that's the end of it. And for me, it goes even further, that we are our spirit within, and that is how I see everyone. That we just wear our bodies. We're so much greater, and each person has so much value and purpose. That's my starting point. But each person to their own. Faith is a very personal thing, and it just so happens that your Happy Healer has so much faith. You know that, right?
Yeah, I do HappyHealer. So, okay, so this Corona thing, it will eventually get contained, right? Someone's going to contain it.
Well, it's mainly affecting elderly people and those who are already weak to some degree. So the fact is, weather too might also have a mitigating factor on it. It might become that when it gets warmer that the virus just sort of fizzles. That would be nice. And I really think, since we don't have an infrastructure of robotic technology, that we should at least look at these problem areas and don't do panic. We don't need that. We live in the world of greed hell, of course. We got to keep everything going in greed hell because it's all we got.
I have a very good scenario. Isn't it interesting that this Corona thing comes out several months before our election in the same year? Isn't that amazing and ironic?
You know, that's politics again. We have a problem, sure. We have a lot of reasons for hell to fall on our shores. whether it's some kind of biological warfare, whether it's some kind of trickery or nefarious crap. That's what you get out of Greed Hill. It comes at every turn. That's one thing I learned about. Let me tell you, the one thing I've learned about love is I could be courageous. I don't have any targets on my back, Howard. I could say what I want because at the heart of it, people know that I love. And I love them. They know that my intentions and my motives are pure. That changes everything. And that's the kind of country we need to be. We invite problems. And so Corona is something that needs to be beaten by realizing our love, realizing our need to beat this problem, that we have to come together, that we have to be serious about how deadly it can be to certain members of our society, and to take those particular precautions. Don't go to your grandparents' house during this outbreak. Give them that reprieve a bit. Be smart about things. And the least of things we should be doing is making it political.
Well, this Trump is doing whatever he can to get reelected, you know? I mean, this is just...
I mean, let me ask you, do you really feel that he's planted this into the America? Do you think that Trump has made the coronavirus? Is that what you're saying? Because I've heard this in different news reports. It's insanity.
I think he has something to do with it. And what's amazing, he and Pence refused to get tested. Isn't it amazing?
No, that's just because earlier on, he didn't want... He's all about... It's a pony show, a dog and pony show. And it's all about tricks and mirrors, and that's how he controls people, and he gets in people's minds. And, you know, he doesn't do things right. I don't like it. You know, I win with love, and I show people the way with love. Trump wins with hate, and he gets people on the same level as him, and he wins in that world. And he would never win in a world where he's compared against love. And that is something I don't just have faith in. The logic is on that side, and that people are on that side. Ultimately, people are good. And it's that goodness in people that's bringing them to this point of wretched misery and becoming so angry, and then slipping into areas where even I'm sure if they were to be honest with themselves, they are not proud. And it just takes coming out of that. You got to slip out of that. And
Does he still have that much strong support?
oh yeah, Donald Trump has a lot of support around the country because what he does is he plays these two different groups against each other. He gets the Democrats to hate him so hard, he does it on purpose, that it looks unreasonable to moderates that Democrats are acting that way. Even though that Donald Trump, President Trump, instigated it in some ways. And that to me is not how a president should act. That's why we need new leadership. We don't need the same stuff coming from the other side. We don't need to regress. We just need progression, and we need courage, and we need to put humanity first in a way that really matters, that humanity matters, that people matter. Trump is not doing that. That's the biggest issue, Howard.
Yeah, here it is.
It really is. And that's the same thing with Biden and with all of them. They're working, they're trying to get the best deal out of Greed Hell. We reject Greed Hell altogether. We want to get onto a system of love, and we describe it so eloquently, so vividly, in detail, and we go through every step of it. And if you watch this campaign from the beginning, that's how it's been the whole time. That's why I've started so long ago. And I said then, if you watch, I said it will progress in ways you will be shocked. And I said then, I said watch how we deal with the many issues that are going to come up, and we're going to get it right. And you'll have the ability to go back in time and to see all the proof is there. All we have to do is have the courage. And I don't see how people are behind any of these candidates, except for that it's their only hope right now. But it's not. Your Happy Healer's here. I'm here. Landi for president. Let's do this. Landi12020. get behind this candidacy. I've been running for a long time and I'm not going anywhere. And I'm running as an independent now. It says Democrat. I'm going to change that. The campaign is changing that. We're still doing it. There's legal steps to doing that with the Federal Election Commission. So we'll have that done, and we'll be an independent party candidate, because we have to win and we have to stay in this race. And so we'll take people from all sides and we'll build the coalition. And between the two that are running, I feel we can actually build a coalition to win.
Well, I hope so, you know. I mean, like, again, somebody has to get in there, and it's always good to have something with newer ideas, not the same thing over and over and over.
It's the kind of repetition that kills, and that's not okay.
Right.
Right?
But getting back to the corona thing, you know, I just want to see it go away, because it's putting the country on a standstill. It's holding the country, the world up. Sorry, it's preventing people from going to their jobs. It's preventing a lot of people from functioning normal.
It's sad.
Like this.
Yeah. Disney is shutting down for some time.
I feel like we're at war or something.
Yeah, no, relax. It's not a big deal. Like I said, in the world of greed hell, everybody thinks it's going to hell if we take a break for a couple of weeks. I said, go work on your artistic skills. You know, what people really need is they need their sustenance. They need food in their mouth and a roof over their head. That's it. Electricity, it's so important. They need that stuff. And that's the most important stuff that they need. In that if you supply that and you relax, you can get through these problems. They're not the end of the world as long as you do those things. You don't have a choice. Sometimes when you don't have a choice and you know that to budge in that particular way, it's only going to cost you more hell and more death and more problems, then, you know, that's why I say my leadership would be the kind that is going with nature and that offers humanity the best way forward and that brings us to a better place in progression and that allows for us all to have a sense of calm. And that is so important, that a president can inspire confidence and people can feel relaxed, and that it's time for that. But it's also time for a lot of hard work moving forward, and people will be able to work really hard when they're relaxed and realize and know why they're doing it, and that we're doing it in a unified stance. One thing we've learned in the media age is that people like doing things together. We are a social species, and we do live in an interdependent world. And so we should capitalize on these very natural things. If we are to call ourselves capitalists, the best capitalist would do love at this time, because it's possible and it's the thing that can make Americans the first super consumers. It can save us. It can ensure that through unity and with the strong American spirit that we can be the first to reach the technological singularity that will change the picture moving forward, that will be the driving force to the 21st century. And it's up to us to do that before we lose it all. That's the major challenge. And nobody is putting it in those words. They're too busy fighting Donald Trump's, and it's irritating. You know, everybody's so focused on Donald Trump. This is not the United States of Donald Trump. This is the United States of America. And we're focused on the wrong things right now. We have to be focused on people. People matter. They have purpose and value. And that when we invest in those people, watch what we get that comes out of that, Howard. It'll be like nothing we've ever seen before. People talk about how will you pay for it. They don't realize that we're quadrupling the economy. That by putting value in people and turning them to super consumers, that they become enabled. And that when people want to pursue whatever it is that they want to pursue, if it's going after material wealth, or whether it's going after serving as a monk, serving within humanity to the cause of God, that they have the avenue to do that, because in a world of love, you matter and have purpose and value. And most of all, you have the freedom to go after that, which you know, your heart is so dedicated to. That is what we are fighting for. And it's written in my mind. I know it so well. And it's what we deserve. I know that because I've seen people in their greatest need, and I've seen people at their very best. And at the core of it, we're all the same. We care. We have hearts of gold, man. And so I want to see us take care of those people. It's those people who matter the most, my friend.
Oh, Lord. It's going to be an interesting year, isn't it? I mean, the year just barely started, and already there's problems.
I know. But it's with the Happy Healer, so we'll all be fine. The Happy Healer's here. We're going to take great care of you. The Happy Healer's got you covered. You're never going to lose with the Happy Healer. And that's my job, is just to keep it going. We're going to work so hard. The people matter. How do you feel about that?
I know, I feel great. I mean, what's in the right now? There's nothing in there right now to be happy about.
We do need a better way to handle people. So it's your Happy Healer that's going to do it, baby. That's right.
He only banned from certain countries.
Yeah, he banned all Europe. Oh, listen. This is important.
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please check the number and dial again. This is a recording.
Yeah. Hi. Good day, my fellow Americans. I'm your Happy Healer report. It is the way forward. Cause we need a president who cares and loves. It's your Happy Healer. Your Happy Healer. Your Happy Healer. Good day, my fellow Americans. I'm your Happy Healer report. President. Cause we need a president who cares and loves. Cause you're a love mocker. Cause we need a president who cares and loves, who loves cares, and don't have to fight for their own self. It is the way forward. It is the way forward. It's your Happy Healer. That's what I am. Your Happy Healer. Your Happy Healer. Happy Healer. Never gives up. And they become undone. Let me tell you. Well, it's great to have you on, Howard.
Thank you so much for your time, and good luck this year.
Yeah, you're with us, man. Help out. So keep sharing and keep being involved in the campaign. And much love to you, brother, and much love to everyone. I think we can do it. You know, I never thought that we couldn't do it. I wouldn't have done this if I thought we couldn't do it. It's because of the ideas. They're so special. It's because of those ideas. Okay, folks, good night. We'll see you soon.
I'm gonna